Earth's orbital space had never been so crowded. Every military ship humanity possessed had been called back to defend their home world. Hundreds of vessels formed a protective ring around the planet, looking tiny and fragile compared to the massive Vanquisher fleet that waited at the edge of the solar system. The temporal sentinel hung in high orbit above Earth, while inside its advanced bridge, Captain Walker and his crew worked to share their knowledge before the enemy attacked. Through the neural interface, they had learned in hours what should have taken years to master. Now they had to teach others, and quickly. The neural interface system can handle 20 people at once, Miller explained to the gathered Earth Defense Fleet captains who had come aboard. Their faces showed a mix of awe and disbelief as they looked around the bridge. We've modified it to transfer only the most critical combat information. It won't be as complete as what we received, but it should be enough to help you understand the basics of our advanced weapons. Walker watched from his captain's chair as the first group of Earth's best pilots and gunners went through the neural transfer process. Sentinel's blue hologram moved among them, monitoring their progress and adjusting the data flow when needed. "Sir," Thompson called from her tactical station, "the Vanquishers are moving their fleet into attack formations. Based on their current speed, we have less than 6 hours before they're in strike range." Dr. Cooper looked up from her station, where she had been studying the future historical records. "They're not following their original invasion plan at all. In the timeline we knew, they approached slowly, tested our defenses carefully. This is completely different. Because we showed them what we could do," Walker said, understanding now why the original timeline had been so cautious. "They saw us destroy their scout ship. They know we have technology that can hurt them. They won't risk giving us time to prepare." Sentinel's hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. "Captain, I've completed analysis of their fleet movements. They plan to attack in 3 waves. The first wave will target our orbital defenses. The second will eliminate military targets on the surface. The third," the AI paused. "The third wave carries planet-killer weapons." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Even with the temporal sentinel's advanced technology, they couldn't be everywhere at once. They needed a plan. "Show me their formation again," Walker ordered. A 3-dimensional map appeared, showing the positions of every ship in space. The Vanquisher fleet was arranged in a perfect attack pattern, like a giant arrow aimed at Earth's heart. Miller spoke up from his engineering station, his mind racing with ideas from the neural interface. "Captain, the temporal sentinel's quantum vacuum drive doesn't just power the ship. It can affect other ships' quantum fields. If we could get close enough to their fleet, we could disrupt their formation." Thompson finished, catching on to the idea. "Force them to break their attack pattern. But we'd have to get dangerously close to their main fleet," Cooper warned. "And we still don't know all of this ship's capabilities. The neural interface gave us the basics, but there could be systems we haven't even discovered yet." Walker turned to Sentinel. "Is she right? Are there systems we don't know about?" The AI's hologram flickered slightly. The temporal sentinel was built with many contingencies, systems that were considered too dangerous to use except in the most desperate situations. The neural interface was programmed to withhold information about these systems until they became necessary. "And you think they're necessary now?" Walker asked. "The timeline has changed," Sentinel replied. "The future we came from may no longer be possible. Perhaps it's time to use everything at our disposal." Walker looked at his crew, then at the Earth captains who were just finishing their neural interface training. They all wore the same expression: determined, ready to fight no matter the cost. "Show us," Walker commanded. Sentinel's hologram grew brighter, and new information flooded through their neural interfaces. Walker gasped as understanding filled his mind. The temporal sentinel wasn't just a warship from the future. It was humanity's ultimate weapon, designed with technology that pushed the boundaries of physics itself. "The quantum fold drive," Miller whispered, his eyes wide as the knowledge settled in his mind. "We can create a pocket universe, trap part of their fleet inside it." "The time dilation cannons," Thompson added, her fingers moving over her tactical controls with new purpose. We can slow down time around their ships, make them fight in slow motion while we move at normal speed. And the dimensional anchor, Cooper said, understanding the true purpose of the ship at last. That's why it's called the Temporal Sentinel. It doesn't just fight in space, it protects the timeline itself. Walker stood up from his chair, feeling the weight of command and knowledge press down on him. How long until all Earth ships are ready for combat? 4 hours for basic neural interface training of all key personnel, Sentinel reported. But the Vanquishers will be in firing range in 6 hours. Then we have just enough time, Walker said. He opened a channel to all Earth ships. This is Captain Walker. In 4 hours, we're going to show the Vanquishers why you should never underestimate humanity. Study everything the neural interface shows you. Learn every weakness in their ships, every flaw in their tactics. They think their technology makes them invincible. We're going to prove them wrong. He turned to his crew. Miller, I want the quantum fold drive ready for maximum effect. Thompson, prepare the time dilation cannons. Cooper, use the historical records. Find every possible advantage we can use against them. We're not just fighting for today. We're fighting for every possible future. The next 4 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Earth ships practiced new battle formations, their crews learning to work with technology they'd never imagined possible. The temporal sentinel systems were pushed to their limits, preparing for a battle that would decide the fate of humanity. As the last minutes ticked away, Walker stood on his bridge, watching the Vanquisher fleet approach on the main screen. They still outnumbered Earth's forces by thousands of ships. They still had technology that humanity wouldn't develop for centuries. But now, thanks to one ship from the future, humanity had a fighting chance. All Earth ships report ready for combat, Thompson announced. Neural interface training complete. They're waiting for your orders, sir. Walker looked at Sentinel's hologram. Any last advice from the future? The AI's image smiled slightly. Only this. Humanity survived this war once before. Now you have the chance to do it better. Walker nodded and opened a channel to all ships. This is Captain Walker. Battle positions, everyone. Let's show the Vanquishers why you should never start a fight with humanity. The Temporal Sentinel's engines hummed with power as its advanced systems came fully online. In 4 hours, they had changed the balance of power in ways the Vanquishers couldn't imagine. Now it was time to prove that humanity's greatest strength wasn't the technology they had, but how quickly they could learn to use it. The final battle for Earth was about to begin. The space around Earth lit up like a new sun as the Vanquisher fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy beams cut through the darkness, aimed at humanity's defending ships. But Earth was ready. Now, Walker commanded from the Temporal Sentinel's bridge. At his word, the quantum fold drive activated. Space itself twisted around them, and half of the incoming fire vanished into pocket universes that closed as quickly as they had opened. Earth Defense Fleet, execute Pattern Alpha. Thompson's voice rang out across all channels. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, their crews using their neural interface training to pull off maneuvers that should have been impossible. They flowed around the remaining enemy fire like water around rocks. First wave approaching, Cooper reported, her eyes scanning tactical displays. 500 ships, heavy cruiser class. Walker nodded. Time to show them what this ship can really do. Thompson, target their lead vessels. Time dilation cannons, full power. The Temporal Sentinel's main weapons powered up, humming with energy that shouldn't exist in this century. Beams of pure white light lanced out, catching 20 Vanquisher ships at once. The space around the alien vessels seemed to thicken like honey. Their movements slowed to a crawl, while the rest of the battle continued at normal speed. Time dilation field holding, Miller reported from engineering. Those ships are experiencing time at 1,000th of normal speed. They're effectively out of the fight. The Vanquishers had never seen anything like it. Their perfect formation began to break apart as ships tried to avoid the Temporal Sentinel's weapons. But every move they made had been predicted, studied in historical records that hadn't been written yet. Second wave breaking through, Thompson called out. More enemy ships poured into the battle, their weapons blazing, but Earth's ships were ready. Using technology copied from the Temporal Sentinel, they created overlapping shields that the vanquishers couldn't break through. Walker watched as human ingenuity combined with future technology. Earth ships may have been less advanced, but their crews were learning fast. Small groups of human vessels worked together, using tactics that confused and frustrated the enemy. "Sir," Cooper's voice was tense. "The third wave is moving into position. Planet killer weapons detected." Walker had been waiting for this moment. "Sentinel, initiate final protocol." The AI's hologram appeared, glowing brighter than ever. "Warning. Dimensional anchor deployment will have unpredictable effects on local spacetime. Are you certain?" "Do it," Walker commanded. The Temporal Sentinel's hull began to glow with strange energy. Symbols and patterns that hurt the eyes to look at appeared on its surface. The ship wasn't just fighting in space anymore. It was fighting through time itself. "Dimensional anchor activated," Sentinel announced, creating temporal stability field. Reality seemed to shiver around them. The Vanquisher ships suddenly found themselves fighting against more than just Earth's fleet. Some of their weapons' fire disappeared, emerging seconds later to hit their own ships. Other vessels found themselves briefly out of sync with normal time, their weapons passing harmlessly through human ships. "What's happening to them?" Thompson asked, watching the chaos unfold. "The dimensional anchor is stabilizing our timeline," Cooper explained, understanding flowing through her neural interface. "Their weapons and technology rely on quantum uncertainty. We're forcing them to obey our laws of physics." The effect was devastating. Vanquisher ships began to fail as their advanced technology stopped working. Weapons designed to ignore shields couldn't penetrate even basic defenses. Engines that bent space couldn't move faster than light. "They're sending out a distress call," Thompson reported, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. "Their entire fleet is in chaos." Through the main viewport, Walker watched as the mighty Vanquisher fleet fell into disarray. Ships collided with each other as their perfect coordination fell apart. The planet-killer weapons in their third wave turned out to be useless hunks of metal when forced to operate under normal physics. "All Earth ships, press the advantage," Walker ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The battle became a rout. Earth vessels, though less advanced, proved far more effective when everyone was forced to play by the same rules. The Temporal Sentinel led the charge, its quantum fold drive creating pockets of trapped space that caught entire enemy squadrons. "Enemy fleet at 60% strength and falling," Cooper announced. "They're beginning to retreat." But Walker knew they couldn't let them escape. If even one ship got away with knowledge of the Temporal Sentinel, the future would change in unpredictable ways. "Sentinel, can we extend the dimensional anchor's effect?" "Affirmative," the eye replied. "But it will require all remaining power. We will be vulnerable." Walker looked at his crew. They all nodded, understanding what needed to be done. "Do it. Earth fleet, protect the Temporal Sentinel. This ends now." The ship's glow intensified until it was painful to look at. The dimensional anchor's effect spread outward like a wave, catching every Vanquisher ship in its field. Space itself seemed to solidify around the alien vessels. "Now, Thompson, everything we have." The Temporal Sentinel fired all weapons at once. Time dilation beams, quantum disruptors, and conventional weapons all struck together. Without their advanced technology to protect them, the Vanquisher ships were defenseless. The battle ended not with a massive explosion, but with a series of quiet flashes as Vanquisher ships simply ceased to exist, their quantum technology falling apart at the fundamental level. "Enemy fleet destroyed," Thompson reported, her voice filled with disbelief. "Complete victory." A cheer went up across all Earth channels. Humanity had won, not just this battle, but their entire future. The Vanquisher threat was ended before it truly began. "Sentinel," Walker asked, "what about the timeline? Did we change too much?" The AI's hologram flickered as it analyzed the data, timeline stabilizing. The future will be different, but humanity's survival is assured. In fact, the hologram smiled. By ending the threat now rather than later, millions of lives have been saved. Walker looked at his crew, Miller at engineering, Thompson at tactical, Cooper at her station, and all the others who had learned to use impossible technology in just hours. "I guess we didn't just save humanity's future," he said. "We made it better." Sentinel's hologram nodded. "The Temporal Sentinel's mission is complete, but its journey is not over. There is much humanity can learn from this ship, much you can achieve with this technology. And we'll use it wisely," Walker promised. "Not just for war, but for exploration, for learning, for making sure humanity reaches the stars safely." As Earth's celebrations continued around them, the Temporal Sentinel hung in space. Its mission changed from preventing humanity's destruction to ensuring its prosperity. The future was no longer written in stone. It was a blank page, waiting for humanity to write its own story. In the ship's databanks, a final message appeared, timeline successfully altered. Humanity saved. New future trajectory calculated. Unlimited potential. The age of humanity had truly begun, thanks to a ship from a future that would never need to happen. Walker forced himself to look scared and desperate, though inside he felt nothing but confidence. "Please," he begged, "we're already damaged. We're no threat to you." The Vanquisher commander laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "No, you are not. But you will serve a purpose. Your destruction will show your species how futile resistance would be." The transmission cut off. On the tactical display, they could see the Vanquisher ship moving into attack position. "They're charging weapons," Thompson reported calmly. "Standard attack pattern. They'll try to cut us in half with their main beam." Walker allowed himself a small smile. "Wait until they fire. Let them think they have us." The Vanquisher ship's front section began to glow with gathered energy. A massive beam of purple light shot out, heading straight for the Temporal Sentinel's midsection. "Now," Walker commanded. In an instant, the Temporal Sentinel's disguise vanished. Its true form emerged, sleek and deadly, as advanced shield systems absorbed the Vanquisher beam like it was nothing. Before the enemy could react, Thompson's fingers danced across her tactical controls. The Temporal Sentinel's main gun fired just once, a beam of pure white light, twisted in ways that hurt the eyes to look at, lanced out and struck the Vanquisher ship. Space itself seemed to bend around the point of impact. The alien vessel didn't explode. Instead, it simply came apart, its quantum-shifted armor useless against weapons that bent the laws of physics themselves. The whole engagement had lasted less than 10 seconds. "Target destroyed," Thompson reported, but her voice was tense. "Sir, I'm picking up a transmission. They got a message off before they were destroyed." Cooper's face went pale as she read the data streaming across her screen. The message reached their main fleet. According to these records, that fleet wasn't supposed to arrive for months. But she looked up, her eyes wide. "They're coming. All of them. Now." The tactical display lit up with new contacts, hundreds of them, then thousands. Vanquisher ships were appearing at the edge of the solar system, their arrival making space itself scream in protest. "Signal coming in from Earth Defense Command," Thompson announced. "They're picking up the enemy fleet too. All defense forces are being mobilized." But she didn't need to finish. Everyone knew Earth's current ships would be useless against this threat. The Temporal Sentinel was their only real weapon, and they had just lost the element of surprise. "Sentinel," Walker asked, "what are our chances?" The AI's hologram flickered slightly. "Timeline has shifted significantly. Original tactical data may no longer be reliable. But the Temporal Sentinel was designed for this fight. Whether it happens now or months from now doesn't change our mission." Walker looked at his crew. The neural interface training had prepared them for battle, but this would be the real test. Humanity's entire future would depend on how well they could handle this ship and how quickly they could teach others to do the same. "Send a message to Earth Defense Command," he ordered. Tell them help is coming. And then prepare for battle. The future might have arrived early, but that just means we get to save humanity ahead of schedule." As the crew prepared for the coming fight, the temporal Sentinel's engines began to hum with power. The biggest battle in human history was about to begin, and humanity's best hope was a ship that hadn't been built yet, crewed by people learning to use technology they barely understood. But they had one advantage the Vanquishers couldn't match. They knew how this war was supposed to end, and they intended to make sure it ended the same way, with humanity's survival. The neural interface training hit Walker like a bolt of lightning to his brain. Information flooded his mind. Weapon systems, engine specifications, battle tactics, and 300 years of technological advancement all at once. He gripped the captain's chair tightly, his knuckles turning white as his mind struggled to process everything. Around him, the rest of the crew was going through the same experience. Miller's hands moved across the engineering controls as if he'd been using them for years. Thompson worked the tactical systems with growing confidence, while Dr. Cooper absorbed centuries of historical data in minutes. "Neural interface at 60%, Sentinel announced, its blue hologram watching over them. "You're adapting faster than expected, but the Vanquisher scout ship will be in weapons range in 45 minutes. Walker's head was spinning, but he could now understand the floating displays around him. The temporal Sentinel systems were incredibly advanced, yet somehow familiar. It was like the ship itself was helping them learn, guiding their thoughts and movements. "Sir," Thompson called out, her voice tense, "the Vanquisher ship has spotted us. They're changing course to intercept." Walker nodded, surprising himself with how calm he felt. The neural interface was working. He knew exactly what the ship could do. "Show me their approach vector," he ordered. A three-dimensional map appeared in the center of the bridge, showing both ships' positions. The Vanquisher vessel was marked in red, moving with impossible speed and grace for its size. "Sentinel," Walker asked, "what are we up against?" The AI's hologram expanded the image of the enemy ship, a Vanquisher Scout Hunter class vessel. In the original timeline, one such ship destroyed 3 Earth-heavy cruisers before being stopped. They use quantum-shifted armor that makes normal weapons almost useless. Miller spoke up from his station, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. "But we can hurt them. The temporal Sentinel's main guns use space-warping technology. Their fancy armor won't help against that." "Correct," Sentinel confirmed. "But we must be careful. A direct confrontation now could change the timeline in dangerous ways. The Vanquishers must not learn too much about this ship's capabilities." Walker understood. If they showed their full strength now, the Vanquishers might change their invasion plans, making the future knowledge they had useless. "Options?" he asked. Cooper turned from her station. "The historical records show that the Vanquishers are arrogant. They don't expect any real resistance from primitive races. We could use that against them." An idea formed in Walker's mind, helped by the combat training from the neural interface. "Sentinel, can we make this ship look damaged, like a normal Earth vessel that's been through a fight?" The AI's hologram smiled. "Activating adaptive camouflage. External appearance shifting to match Earth Defense Fleet design patterns. Adding simulated battle damage to outer hull." Through the view screen, they watched as the temporal Sentinel's sleek, futuristic appearance seemed to shimmer and change. Now it looked like a regular Earth-heavy cruiser, with scorch marks and damaged panels visible on its hull. "Vanquisher ship entering visual range," Thompson reported. "They're scanning us." "Let them scan," Walker said. "Make our power readings look weak. Miller, can you leak some plasma from the engine section? Make it look like we're in trouble." "Already on it, sir," Miller replied. "They'll think we're running on emergency power." The Vanquisher ship appeared on their screen, a massive dark vessel that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its design was organic and threatening, like a giant predator made of metal and shadow. "They're hailing us," Thompson announced. Walker straightened in his chair. On screen, the image that appeared showed a being that looked like a nightmare come to life. The Vanquisher commander was tall and gaunt, with gray skin that seemed to shift and move like smoke. Its eyes were deep red, filled with casual cruelty. "Primitive vessel," the alien spoke in heavily accented English. "You are in the presence of your betters. Surrender now, and we will make your extinction quick and painless." Miller called out from his station. "The ship's AI just came online, sir. It's asking to speak with the ranking officer." Before Walker could respond, a hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed a human figure made of blue light, wearing what looked like a future version of their own military uniform. "Greetings, Captain Walker," the AI said in a perfectly natural voice. "I am the tactical neural system of the Temporal Sentinel, but you may call me Sentinel. I've been waiting for your arrival." Walker stepped forward, trying to hide his amazement. "You know who I am. I have accessed your ship's databases and identified all crew members," Sentinel replied. "I am programmed to assist Earth Defense Fleet personnel in operating this vessel. Time is short, and there is much you need to learn." "About these Vanquishers?" Walker asked. The AI's expression became grave. "Yes. In the original timeline, they arrive in 3 months. Their first attack destroys half of Earth's defense fleet. The second attack ends human civilization. This ship was humanity's last hope, a desperate plan to change history." Dr. Cooper spoke up. "The historical records show no sign of these Vanquishers in our time. How can we be sure?" She was interrupted by a sudden alarm. Red lights flashed across the bridge as Sentinel announced, long-range sensors detecting quantum wake signatures. "A Vanquisher scout ship has entered the solar system. They are decades ahead of their original schedule." Walker felt his heart race. "How is that possible?" "Unknown," Sentinel replied. "But this changes everything. You must learn to operate this ship immediately. I can interface with your neural patterns to speed up the training, but it will still take time. Time we may no longer have." Miller looked up from his station, his face pale. "Captain, I'm looking at the Vanquisher ship's specifications that Sentinel just showed me. It's more advanced than anything we have. Our whole fleet couldn't stop it." "But this ship can," Sentinel said firmly. "That's why we're here." "Captain Walker, you must make a decision now. The neural interface process cannot be reversed, and there are risks. But without it, you cannot hope to master this ship's systems in time." Walker looked around the bridge, at the faces of his crew members, then back at the glowing figure of Sentinel. Everything had changed in just a few hours. They had found a ship from the future, learned of an alien threat that could destroy humanity, and now had to decide whether to trust an AI they barely understood. But as he looked at the floating displays showing the approaching Vanquisher ship, he knew they had no choice. Humanity's future had arrived early, and they needed to be ready. "Do it," Walker said to Sentinel. "Show us how to fight." The AI nodded, and the bridge lights dimmed. "Neural interface beginning," Sentinel announced. "Preparing for emergency combat training. May your gods have mercy on us all, for the Vanquishers will not." As the neural interface process began, none of them knew that this was just the beginning. The real test of humanity's ability to master future technology was about to begin, and the fate of Earth would depend on how quickly they could learn. Captain Walker stepped out of the shuttle and into the Temporal Sentinel's massive hangar bay. His eyes widened as he took in the sight. The space was enormous, easily able to hold 20 ships the size of his shuttle. The walls gleamed with a metal he didn't recognize, and strips of soft blue light ran along the ceiling, creating perfect illumination without any harsh shadows. "This way, sir," First Officer Thompson called, waiting by a doorway that had slid open silently at their approach. Walker followed her, noting how his footsteps made almost no sound on the floor despite his heavy boots. As they walked through the corridors, Walker understood why Thompson had insisted he come see for himself. Everything was pristine, like a brand new ship, but the technology was beyond anything he'd ever imagined. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing ship systems in perfect detail. Doors opened before they reached them, and the air was perfectly temperature-controlled. "Here's the bridge, sir," Thompson said, stopping before a large door. "But before we go in, you should know. Chief Engineer Miller and Dr. Cooper are already inside, trying to make sense of what we found." The bridge doors slid open with a soft whoosh, revealing the command center that made the Star Wanderer's bridge look like ancient history. The room was circular, with workstations arranged in a horseshoe pattern around a central captain's chair. But these weren't normal workstations. Each one had holographic controls that floated in the air, showing 3D images that could be rotated and manipulated with hand gestures. Tom Miller, the chief engineer, was standing at what looked like an engineering station, his face lit by the blue glow of floating diagrams. Dr. Alice Cooper, their military historian, sat at another station, scrolling through text at impossible speeds. "Captain," Miller called out, his voice filled with excitement and disbelief. "You won't believe what this ship can do. The engine isn't fusion or antimatter. It's something called a quantum vacuum drive. It literally pulls energy from empty space. And the weapons," he shook his head, "they don't just shoot lasers or plasma. They can bend space itself." "That's not even the most interesting part," Dr. Cooper interrupted, turning from her station. "I've been reading through the ship's logs. Captain, this ship, it's from the future. 300 years in the future, to be exact." Walker stared at her. "That's impossible," he said, but even as the words left his mouth, he wasn't so sure anymore. After what he'd seen of the ship's technology, could anything really be impossible? "Look at this," Cooper said, gesturing at her screen. Text and images floated in the air, showing timestamps and log entries. The last log entry is dated April 15, 2325, and it explains everything. Why the ship is here, why it's empty, why everything is in English. It was sent back in time on purpose. Walker walked over to her station, reading the floating text. The log entry was clear and direct. "Final mission log, TNS Temporal Sentinel. We've activated the temporal drive. If our calculations are correct, the ship will arrive in the past, approximately 3 months before first contact with the Vanquishers. This is humanity's last hope. We pray our ancestors will understand what to do with this gift." End log. "There's more," Cooper said, pulling up other files. "Technical manuals, tactical data, historical records, everything we'd need to understand and operate this ship. It's like they were sending us a weapon and an instruction book all in one." "Yes, sir," she replied, her voice tense. "The ship seems to be welcoming us." "Proceed with extreme caution," Walker ordered. "Full weapons ready and keep your comm link open. If anything feels wrong, get out immediately." They watched as the shuttle disappeared into the massive ship's airlock. The next few minutes were tense as they listened to the boarding team's communications. "Airlock is pressurized normally. Atmosphere is breathable, but keeping suits on for now. Entering main corridor." Thompson's voice came in clear bursts. "Sir, you won't believe this. Everything is perfect. No dust, no damage, nothing. It's like this ship just came out of a shipyard. And, sir, there's more English text everywhere. Labels, signs, everything." Walker listened intently as the team moved deeper into the ship. Each report made less sense than the last. Advanced computer terminals that responded to human commands. Artificial gravity that could be adjusted room by room. Weapon systems beyond anything humanity had even dreamed of. "Captain," Thompson's voice suddenly came through, sounding shocked. "We found the bridge. And, sir, you need to see this yourself. It's safe, the whole ship is secure, and the systems are. They're actually helping us. Please, you need to see this." Walker looked around his bridge, then nodded to himself. Keep the Star Wanderer at alert status. I'm going over there. Notify me immediately if anything changes. He headed for the shuttle bay, his mind racing with possibilities. As he sat in the second shuttle heading toward the mysterious ship, Walker couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change everything. The temporal sentinel hung in space before him, its sleek form somehow managing to look both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. What they didn't know yet was that this ship wasn't just a random discovery. It was a gift from the future, sent back through time by desperate hands, carrying within its halls the key to humanity's survival. And as the shuttle entered the massive ship's airlock, they were about to take the first step on a journey that would reshape the destiny of the entire human race. The deep silence of space was broken by the soft humming of the Earth Defense Fleet's patrol ship, Star Wanderer. Captain James Walker stood on the bridge, his experienced eyes scanning the endless darkness through the massive view screen. 20 years of space service had taught him that the quiet moments were often when the most interesting things happened. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on long-range scanners," said Mike Roberts, the ship's sensor officer. His fingers moved quickly across the glowing control panel. "It's big, and it's not moving like any normal ship should." Walker walked over to Mike's station, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. "Show me," he said, leaning over to look at the screen. The blip on the radar was unusual. It seemed to fade in and out, like a ghost in space. "Whatever it is, it's about 3 times the size of our ship," Mike said, adjusting some controls. "And it's just drifting." Walker nodded slowly. "Any life signs?" he asked, though he already had a feeling about the answer. Ships that size didn't usually drift without a reason. "None that I can detect, sir," Mike replied. "But the energy readings are off the charts. Something on that ship is still running." Walker straightened up and looked around his bridge. The crew was alert, waiting for his decision. "How far?" he asked. "About 4 hours at standard speed, sir." Walker didn't hesitate. "Plot an intercept course. But keep us at a safe distance when we approach. First Officer Thompson, prepare a boarding team. Full safety protocols." Lisa Thompson, his first officer, nodded and left the bridge. Walker watched the mysterious blip on the main screen as they changed course. In all his years of space travel, he'd seen abandoned ships before, victims of pirates, technical failures, or worse. But something about this one felt different. The next 4 hours passed slowly. The crew ran every scan they could think of, but the mysterious ship kept most of its secrets. The only thing they knew for sure was that it was big, empty, and somehow still powered up. When they finally got close enough for visual contact, everyone on the bridge fell silent. The ship hanging in space before them was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was beautiful in a scary way. All sharp angles and smooth surfaces, painted in a dark gray that seemed to swallow light. It looked more like a giant space predator than a ship. "Are those weapon ports?" asked Jenny Mills from the tactical station, her voice filled with wonder. The ship's hull was dotted with what looked like closed hatches, but they were arranged in patterns that made no sense to human military design. "Must be," Walker said, studying the strange vessel. "But I've never seen anything like them. In fact, I've never seen anything like this ship at all. Run a check against all known ship designs, human and alien." Jenny worked at her station for a few minutes. "No matches, sir. Not even close. But," she paused, frowning at her screen. "Sir, you need to see this." Walker walked over to her station, and his eyes widened. On the screen was a close-up image of the ship's hull, showing some markings near what looked like an airlock. The text was in clear, perfect English. "Tienes temporal sentinel." "That's impossible," Walker muttered. No human ship had ever been built with this level of technology. And while there were alien races that used English markings to be friendly to humans, none of them had ships that looked anything like this. "Sir," Mike called from his station. I'm getting more detailed scans now. The ship's systems, they're active. Not just running on backup power. The whole ship is humming with energy. And, he paused, double-checking his readings. The technology is like nothing in our database. The power source alone is putting out readings that should be impossible. Walker made his decision. Thompson, he called over the ship's comm. Is your boarding team ready? Yes, sir, came the quick reply. Full environmental suits, weapons, and emergency gear. We're ready when you give the word. Walker looked at the mysterious ship one more time. Every instinct told him this was important. Maybe the most important discovery of his career. Launch the boarding shuttle. But be careful. Something about this isn't right. Through the view screen, they watched as the small boarding shuttle left their ship and moved toward the temporal sentinel. The shuttle looked tiny next to the massive vessel, like a moth approaching a steel eagle. Sir, Jenny said suddenly, the airlock. It's opening. Indeed, one of the ship's airlocks was slowly sliding open, as if inviting them in. No one had sent any signals or access codes. The ship had simply decided to let them in. Thompson, are you seeing this? Walker asked over the comm.